Okay, we're going to read another short story from the collection The Lagoon by Janet Frame. This one's called The Secret. My eldest sister was called Myrtle. She had dimples on her knees and curly golden hair, and she could pinch me very hard when she was wild with me. She was all filled with a longing to be grown up. Once she went for a holiday down south where snowberries and penny oranges grow on the hills, and people keep bees and have orchards, where the grass is wet and silver with frost in the morning, and the fallen apples go squelch, squelch underfoot. Down south, Myrtle fell in love with Vincent. "Will you marry me?" Vincent said. "I can wait." Vincent, too, was filled with a longing to be grown up. So he used the words they use in the films. "Will you marry me? I can wait. I'll soon be earning enough to support a wife and family. Don't worry, darling, I can wait." Myrtle came home from down south full of secret smiles and giggles. "Vincent," she said, "Vincent this and Vincent that." Sometimes letters came, and I, who was Myrtle's confidant, had the privilege of curling up on the end of the bed and saying, "Read us that bit over again. Read us the bit you missed out last time." Well, Myrtle's romance died what they call a natural death. Vincent came to stay with us, and observing him in the intimacies of eating and drinking and going off to the bathroom for an abortive shave, Myrtle decided she wouldn't marry after all. She would be an actress. Jean Harlow or Ginger Rogers. Myrtle looked like Ginger Rogers. Even I, who admitted in myself a secret resemblance to Janet Gaynor, was able to say without malice and with honesty that Myrtle looked like Ginger Rogers. The hair, the figure, the looks, the making of a great actress. "Do I really look like her? Tell me, do I really?" And she would croon to herself, but loud enough for me to hear, and realize that hair was another Ginger Rogers. "Oh, I seem to find the happiness I seek when we're out together, dancing cheek to cheek." Myrtle went dancing too, and every Friday night she said to me, "Will you come downtown with us?" And together we used to go downtown. There were lots of people in the town on a Friday night. The Salvation Army band played "God the All-Terrible," and "There is a Green Hill Far Away." Sometimes, too, there were bagpipes downtown, and people out of my class at school all dressed up in their smart clothes, with their mothers in smart clothes too, their mothers with a handbag and gloves and a nice little hat. They would smile at me, and Myrtle would say, "Who was that?" And I would tell her that was Molly's mother. Molly sits next to me at school. She learns the piano. But chiefly Myrtle went downtown to see the boys. She liked the tall, dark ones the best. They stood on the edge of the footpath outside Mackenzie's and whistled, and Myrtle would look back over her shoulder and smile. "For I seem to find the happiness I seek when we're out together, dancing cheek to cheek." Do I look like her? Really? Tell me I do. And then at 9 o'clock we would have a milkshake, pineapple or raspberry or strawberry, or an ice cream sundae with pink biscuits like wings poking out of the ice cream. And then we would go home past Hunt's red fence where the little spotty fox terrier was chained up. But we wouldn't be thinking about the dog, and I wouldn't even be bothering to run my fingers along the grooves in the fence. We would be too busy arranging things. The cheese was 1 and 8, remember? He cut a big piece off. And say we lost 4p in the grass outside the blacksmith's. It was a good milkshake, wasn't it, Myrtle? Yes, and if you tell, I'll pinch you. I won't tell. I've often sneaked 4p that way too. I liked the smell of Myrtle. She smelt alive. She had hair growing under her arms too, and she was awfully grown up. She used lipstick, Tangy Naturel. She put it on when she got outside the door, and she read beautiful sad books called The Oracle and Miracle, about the man in her life and the other woman. And once we were sick in bed together. We had fun then. Myrtle had fainted and Bill Saunders had carried her into the dining room. Did I look nice fainting? I hope I looked pale and deathly. And the doctor had come. What did the doctor do, Myrtle? He listened to me when I woke up. He took off my blouse, too. I think I was awfully ill. What does it feel like to faint? I've always wanted to faint. Oh, it doesn't feel like anything. You just faint. In bed together we painted pictures and we gave each other knee rides and we pinched each other when we got wild and we talked and talked about Ginger Rogers and Janet Gaynor mostly and what we would do when we were 21. I would be an opera star, I said, or a blind violinist. A blind violinist had come and played in the Majestic Theatre, and I had heard her play, and on the way home just outside Mrs. Feather's I had started to cry. What's the matter, dear? Here's a chocolate fish with pink inside. Mrs. Feathers was the loveliest shopkeeper. Our bill was pounds and pounds, and Dad didn't see how he was going to keep the wolf from the door, and still Mrs. Feathers could say, Here's a chocolate fish. Myrtle taught me to swim, too. She was good at swimming. Look at me, Myrtle, I'm swimming. Yes, with one foot on the bottom. I only put it down sometimes, but I'm swimming, aren't I? And Myrtle would dive off the deep end and swim underwater up to me and grab my legs, and I would gasp and squeal and say, You mean thing. Watch me, she would say, and she would dive backwards and do a honey pot into the water and a pike and overarm and the new kind of swimming that she thought she must have invented herself. You're like a fish, the people said. Isn't she like a fish? And then one day my mother said to me, Come here, Nini. What, Mum? My mother looked sad and helpless like a princess in the fairy tale when she has to empty the sea with a thimble or spin a room full of thread in a night or find the lost ring lying at the bottom of a lake. What, Mum? Nini, you mustn't tell the others. I'm telling you because you're older. My mother was baking gingerbread. She was sticking on raisins for eyes, and the bowl was all waiting to be licked. There were some raisins left in the bottom of the bowl, too. What's it about, Mum? The secret? Myrtle is sick, Nini. Her heart. The doctor said she may go at any time. Go, Mum? Pass away, Nini. Be taken by God. That meant die and death, but Myrtle couldn't die. Gosh, we had fun together. We caught flies and fed them to spiders, and we got a magnifying glass and shriveled up the beetles in the grass. And then we got sorry, the poor beetles crawling around in the hot, dry grass, and the poor little bright green frog that died down by the tap, and poor Penny, the poisoned cat with bright eyes and a hot, dry nose. Myrtle couldn't die. Grandma had died. But then Grandma was old with no legs and a shriveled up face like an old brown walnut. And Auntie Maggie had died, but Auntie Maggie was thin, and she coughed all the time and said, Excuse me, my throat. And Grandad had died, but Grandad was old too. He must have been living for years and years before the beginning of the world. He was like one of the old men in the poem whose hands are like claws and whose knees are twisted like old thorn trees. Well, Myrtle wasn't like Grandma or Grandad or Auntie Maggie. She was different. She was young and would be a great actress like Ginger Rogers, and she would tap dance with Fred Astaire and live at Palm Springs, Hollywood. So I smiled to myself when my mother told me the secret, and I put 3 raisins into my mouth and I said, Don't believe the doctor, Mum. It's not true. But that night, in the middle of the night, I woke up. The shadow of the plum tree outside was waving up and down on the bedroom wall, and the dark mass of coats at the back of the door made fantastic shapes of troll and dwarf. It was cold, too, because all my blankets were gone off me. Myrtle, I said. Myrtle. Myrtle didn't answer. She was lying still. She had one of Dad's old shirts on for a nightie. I could see the pearl buttons shining in the dark. Myrtle, wake up, Myrtle. But she didn't answer. She didn't even move, and I put my hand over her body to feel if her heart was still going. Lub-dub, lub-dub, lub-dub. her heart was saying. So it was all right. I pulled more blanket over my side, and I curled up myself to fit with her. And I thought, tomorrow there'll be a ripe plum on the plum tree. Myrtle and I will eat it. And then I fell asleep.